What's going on, y'all? Welcome to Reading Between the Wines. It's Wine Wednesday, Wine Down Wednesday. Grab your glass, grab your bottle, whatever you got. But what I need you to do is tag your friends, invite them on in to this Reading Between the Wines session. I have my friend, author Robert Stubblefield coming in the building tonight. So now I am sampling this blood orange wine tonight. And let me tell you, it's really, really, really orange. And it's 12%. And I had no idea that this wine was from France. I just picked up this bottle and started to read it. And we got a nice rosé, a blood orange rosé from France. So, you know how we feel about France around here. So, yeah, reading between the wines. Let's get it. So now, song of the day. We're going to get into this real quick. So when I heard this song back in 2020, it was just like a powerful, powerful song during this whole pandemic when everybody was going crazy, when the world was going crazy. It was, I think I'm saying her name right, Shayla. I'm just going to say Shayla, but You Are Enough. So please go ahead and look that up. This is a powerful song. Anybody going through anything, anybody just coming out of something, trying to get to the next level, the bottom line is that you are enough. All of the power, everything is already in you. You just have to basically come through and make it work. So You Are Enough 2020. Please go ahead and check this out. Shayla, I'm going to go ahead and spell her name in case I'm saying it wrong, but it's Shelea. Again, this was released in 2020. And the bottom line is you're enough. After basically being told that you're not enough, after going through whatever you're going to go through and being beat down and being your own worst enemy, you might need a song like this to help you pull on through. It worked for me, and hopefully it'll work for each and every one of you out there listening, reading between the wines. People out there, if you're out there on Facebook, if you're out there on Instagram, wherever you're calling from, YouTube, check out the YouTube page, Twitter. What's up to everybody out there on Twitter, all of the new followers? I appreciate you. But go ahead and drop it in the comments. Let me know where you are calling from, what you are sipping on tonight, what you are drinking on tonight. And yeah, we here reading between the wines, y'all. Again, this wine is like real, real orangey. That's the only way I could describe it. Is blood orange, so they definitely got that part right. I want to give a very special thank you to my guest last night. You want to hear some real inspirational talk, some real inspirational conversation, please go ahead and check out the replay from last night. Go on over to YouTube, Laren Gaines, check out the replay. Lamia Michelle was on, and she shared her story, and she basically let us know exactly where she came from and where she's getting ready to go. Check out her journals, check out her book. She is a life coach. She'll get you whatever you need. Check out Miss Lamia Michelle, Mr. Nate Perry, my photographer, all the way from Brooklyn, New York. What's going on? Thank you for coming through. Jason T. Davis from California, Mr. Adam Bullock from Phoenix, Arizona, Oriana. Hopefully I'm saying your name properly, but Miss Covington, thank you so much. You and your mother, I appreciate you. Shanti Refuge, another powerhouse. She has 26 journals. Y'all go ahead and check her out as well. Another one from the ATL. Lamia's from the ATL. Miss Lachelle Williams from the ATL. Check out her book, Perfidious Agenda. My friend Danny from My Survivor Voice podcast, fellow podcaster, always coming through, showing some love and support. Miss Fashayla Jules as well. She definitely had hooked me up with the jewelry. So if you want to see what good is like, check out Miss Fashayla Jules. And I was wearing her jewelry last night. What's going on, Mr. Stephen Bond? How are you? I appreciate you. Thank you for coming on in. Miss Bethany Trent from California, and Facebook family Danielle Leverett. Thank you so much for coming through, and anybody that supports, whether you like, comment, share, come through for the song of the day, come through for the burning questions. Maybe it just came through the support for the special guests that came through. I appreciate everybody out there for all of the love and support that y'all give the Forum podcast and Reading Between the Wines. Now I need to go ahead and rewind this thing from last night. Now, we talked about power. We had a great conversation last night. We spoke about power. Do you know what your power is? Do you know what your worth is? And when you look back on where you've been in life, did it get stagnant? Did your situation get stale? Did you let it get stagnant? Did you let it get stale due to the lack of knowledge about their own power? Like, yes, this happened. Yes, that happened. But damn, I understand why, because I didn't know what my power was. I didn't know what my worth was. Had I known what I was worth, had I known my power, maybe this situation wouldn't have been what it was going to be. Maybe I didn't have to go back and forth, round and round in a merry-go-round with you 1,000 times if I knew what my power was. So a lot of us, we give up our power. We relinquish our power to whatever situation is going on, and we become less than, and we dip down and we slide into a lower world, and we start to do things that are beneath us because we are just screaming out, crying out, and we don't understand the power that we actually hold. So I truly believe today that you can control any type of situation that you're in. I can't control you. I've learned that. That's a life lesson that we've learned. We can't control people. We understand that, but I damn sure can control my circumstances and my situation. So, did it get stagnant? Did it get old? Did it get worn out? Did it get lost? Because you. Now, don't point the finger at the other person. Point it at you and say, this happened because I didn't even know what my power was. I didn't understand the knowledge. I didn't understand what I had going on right here. Is that what happened? Man, listen. Now, after that, after you realize that, you sit with self, quiet things down, shut the phone off, turn everything down, turn it off. You'll start to figure things out and be like, all right, I got it. Now, after that, that's when the healing process comes in. So now the question that I have, even though, yeah, we had to take it there, I had to go there, I had to remind people, I had to remind, whatever, that yes, that happened. It's life. Sometimes we have to keep, playing those records so that we understand and we know where we came from so we don't make those same mistakes again. It's a reminder. You can play that record, but just don't play it too long. Play it, for a little bit, get it, take it off, and then now you're ready to run. Is when you play it and you stay stuck, and you stay stuck, and you stay stuck, and the record keeps skipping, and you stay in and you listening to it, knowing that it keeps skipping over and over and over again. So once you get past that, now it's the healing process. So everybody's healing process looks different. What does your healing process look like today? And for those of you who are healing, who've been through some things in life, we all been, this is life, it is what it is doing something about it, not staying stuck. What does it look like for you? Can you smile again? Can you laugh again? Can you trust again? And most important, can you love again? There's some things that have to happen in order for you to get to this point to be able to say that I'm healed. You know that you're healed when you're able to forgive and you can move on. What's your healing process look like today? I know for me, we can say cheers to the fact that, wow, we're able to smile again. We have our voice back, which we've had lost for so many years. There's actually love again. Ain't holding no grudges. We don't got no anger towards anybody. just all gratefulness and all thankfulness for exactly where we are at right here today. Because without all of those trials, without all of that stuff that we went through, we wouldn't even be here today. Mm. Real talk. This is some real talk. Let's see what my special guest, Mr. Robert Stubblefield, see what he has to say. When the phone rings a couple times, usually is not a good sign.
2 4.
Yeah, we're gonna have to go ahead and do that thing again. We don't want to have his phone number broadcasted all over here. He'd be getting phone calls from everybody. What's going on? Honestly, vegan, how you doing tonight? Miss Regina in the building tonight. Yo, 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 what's up? You there?
Yep, I'm here. Can you hear me okay?
Yeah, I got you loud and clear. What's going on? Welcome. Really?
Hey, thank you so much. It feels so good to be back. Reading Between the Wines, is the podcast for poets, authors, and pretty much everybody out there. I'm glad to be back.
Thank you so much for that. I appreciate that. So, you know, I had asked everyone the question, or I threw it out there tonight. So, I talked about healing after we going through some nonsense, after we going through a storm. We come out on the other end. That's where the healing is. And for some, we can smile again, we can laugh again, but most important, we can love again. I think that's a big thing for me because when I look back to 2020 and even before that, I never thought that I would be at the place where I'm at today, and that is actually signs that healing is taking place because you're no longer holding on to any grudges, no bad feelings towards anybody from the past. Like, because without that, there would be no reading between the wines. So, I got to be happy about that. No 411 podcast. And yes, this is what I really wanted, but I didn't know that I had to go through all of that to get this. So, what does your healing process look like if you've ever been through anything like that?
Oh yeah, gotcha. That's a great question. 'Cause the thing is, healing. Let's start with why healing is important, and then I'll go into my healing process. Because healing is very important because it ties into the self care portion. Because the thing is, you can't pour from an empty cup. You can't help anybody if you're empty. You know,
Mm.
and so basically, for me, what I like to do when I have to take time away from stuff, whether it's like work's getting too tired, activism, organizing is wearing me down. I take time for myself. I say, hey, I want to take X amount of time for myself to focus on what I need to do so I can be at my best game. So sometimes what I'll do is I'll go into seclusion. I know, this is just what I do. What I'll do is that during my seclusion period, I'll go hiking because nature itself is very healing.
Mm.
I'll also do meditation because meditation is a great way to help not just recenter yourself, but it's a very good way to help balance one's emotions. I also like to do things too, like creative things, artistic things. In addition to poetry, I also do some painting. Although though I mainly do abstracts, and it's a good way to practice Chinese and Japanese calligraphy. But it's very calming for me, and just work on my physical health, like going exercising, because exercising for me it's like moving meditation in a sense where like I get to move, I get to recenter myself, and whatever that's stressing me out, I can at least get a good sweat going on, and work out. You know what I mean? So that's what my healing process entails. So that way, after my period of self-imposed exile is over, I'm back. I can perform. I can help people. I can pour from a fuller glass. So that's just what my healing process is.
Mm. That whole you can't pour from an empty cup is so powerful, and so many of us we running around thinking we trying to help people. Hell, we can't even help ourselves when we are all empty and drained and craziness. But yeah, that's some real talk. You do a lot. I know we're gonna get into your books, but I want you to let everyone know where you are calling from. Remind everybody where you're from.
Okay, great, great. So, for those who are new listening to Reading Between the Lines, I am from Maryland. Specifically, I live in Silver Spring. It's just outside of Washington, D.C. It's about, depending on traffic, about 15 to 30 minutes away from D.C. So, there's a lot to do. But it's a very diverse. You know, that's where a lot of my influences come in many aspects. But this is where I'm located. So.
Okay, so you're in a decent area. It's not too rough.
Yeah, it's not too bad. It's not too bad.
I mean,
So,
because I've heard some stories about Baltimore, Maryland. Man, I've heard some crazy stories.
yeah, Baltimore. Well, I'll say this about Baltimore. This could be like another discussion for another time. While Baltimore is crazy, you know, we gotta have a conversation about why Baltimore is the way that it is. You know
Mm.
what I mean? Because like the thing is, there's a very very long and ugly history of not of racism and classism and redlining and underfunding that goes why Baltimore is the way that it is. You know, because you don't really see stuff like what's going on in Baltimore. You don't see that in places that are well funded. You don't see that in places that are well cared for. You don't see that in places where the government, whether it's the county or city government, will pour a lot of resources into one specific area. You
Mm.
know,
Mhm.
so we really got to take a look at it. Like case in point, when people talk about, you know, I want to use another city for example. When people talk about Philadelphia, Pennsylvania as being wild, people forget there was a long time when Philadelphia had a thriving, you know, like prior to the Civil War. Uh, Philadelphia had like the largest free black population. You had a lot of black emissaries like Richard Allen, the founder of the AME Church. You had Jean Pierre Burr, who was a barber, as well as one of the founders of the Underground Railroad. You
Mm.
had, you also had Prince Hall, founder of the Prince Hall Masons, just so on and so forth. So these are things, and then what winds up happening, of course,
Mhm.
is that they don't tell that history. And the reason why they don't tell that history is because they don't want that history to be told. It's what Bob Marley once said in his song, "Get Up, Stand Up." It's like half the story has never been told, and the reason why that other half story hasn't been told is because they want to keep people down where they are, so that way they have some semblance of control. And so one of the things that I feel that it is an artist's duty, whether you're a poet, a painter, a musician, etc., it is you have a moral obligation to disrupt that status quo with your art.
Mm.
One of the things that I talk about primarily is that I think the civil rights and the Black Power movement wouldn't nearly have been as efficient without the Black arts movement with luminaries like Audre Lorde, Nikki Giovanni, Amiri Baraka, you know, the Last Poets, the Watch Prophets, you know, those were a lot of luminaries that really helped have an influence on the culture. And without them, there wouldn't be hip hop in a sense, you know. So
You you got some knowledge. I will tell you that. Can't nobody deny that. So where did all of this come from? How did you get into this?
so are you talking about like poetry or
Just,
knowledge
just your
or
knowledge about the community, um, history. How did all of that come about? Because not
okay,
everybody.
so
You drop some names. You even drop some names and stuff that I don't know. So I'm sure so many people out there are like, all right, I gotta Google this. I gotta find out who he's talking about, or you know whatever. So how did you become so knowledgeable about this?
so growing up in my household, reading was mandatory. So like I said, reading was mandatory. That we had books like on history. In fact, what my mom used to do from the time I was in elementary school up until I'm going to say around my ninth grade of high school. Every summer, what my mom would do is that she would take me and my siblings to the library, and we would have to check out 3 to 4 books, and we would have to do book reports on all of those books, talk about what we learned, and talk about. And mind you, during the summers, I was pretty busy during the summer. So I did basketball, baseball. I did a lot summer camps. So so it's kind of like on top of that. Then as soon as we're done, before I can go play with my neighbors and my friends, it's like, no, you got to go to the library and you got to read all those books. And at the time, I hated it because I was like, man, I don't want to do all this stuff. I just got done with school and I just want to relax during the summer. I didn't really appreciate that until as I got older, you know, then I went to college, and even after college, or people kind of like, man, how do you know so much? It's because I read. And then in addition to that, my dad, because he used to get the Washington Post every Sunday, and so what my dad would have me do, because I used to read the sports and the Sunday Funnies. And before I could read the sports and the funnies, what my dad would have me do, I had to read the sport, I had to read the art section, the international section, business section, metro section, and then I had to talk with him about what I just read and how that affects what's going on in the community. And so that really, I think, played a role. But then again, for my dad, it made sense because my dad, I know I mentioned this before my first time on your show, but for the people that are just listening, my dad is a former black member of the Black Panthers when he was up in New York at the time.
Yeah.
So for him, like, you know, one of the things he talked about was Rule 26. And Rule 26 of the Black Panthers was that anyone that's in a leadership position must read at least 2 hours a day to keep update on the current changing political landscape. And that to me is very important. And so there's a reason why the phrase readers make leaders exists. Because like if you read, that means you have to read because it helps you keep abreast. It helps you, especially history, because history is pattern. In fact, I think it was George Santayana who once said, "Those who do not remember the past are condemned to repeat it."
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah. Mm-hmm. And that gets me so. It's so funny that you say that because that's one reason why I stay away from some of the news and I don't get into, because it's very frustrating because people act like some of this stuff is brand new. Like we've never seen this before. We've never been through it. And to have conversations with people, it really just drives me crazy sometimes. I'm like, you don't remember this? Like I can't believe in my lifetime that I'm seeing half of this stuff that I see when I learned about it in school. But now I'm seeing it in real life situation and people just act like this first time we've been seeing this.
Yeah. This kind of ties back, you know, and I'm glad you mentioned that because this ties back to a war on education and the rise of anti-intellectualism in this country. Because typically, what winds up happening is when you underfund schools to the point where you are underpaying teachers and your textbooks aren't up to date. Like I never forget. Like I'll use an example. I used to work as a tutor many years ago, and I used to tutor a group of kids, and they were having textbooks that said, and I kid you not, that George H.W. Bush was president. And this is back in 2012. Last time I checked, George H.W. Bush was president from 1988 to 1992. So there's been a bunch of presidents after H.W. Bush. You had Clinton, you had Bush, you had his son, George W. Bush, you had Obama at the time. You know
that's
and so
yeah, I'm sorry to cut you off about it. I have never experienced that because I actually have had the privilege to grow up in an area that was funded properly. But when that happens, you lose all sense of what's going on in other places. So I can't even imagine. So that is so true to what you're saying, that these areas are being basically they're becoming stale. I talked about stale and being stagnant on purpose. Now is this done on purpose so that we can keep people stuck? Because they're not even getting the whole full knowledge of what everyone else in the world is getting. But go ahead, I'll let you.
yeah, and what happens is that you get a type of ignorance
Mm.
Called, I like to call it willful ignorance, because ignorance is simply you don't know, and we've all been ignorant of things at times in our lives. Willful ignorance means to me that you simply don't want to know,
Mm.
because it's going to challenge your world of view. It's going to create, it's going to challenge all the stereotypes you have about people or cultures, and then when you get exposed to and so that's part of the reason why we're in this. So when people act like, "Oh my God, I can't believe this happened here," it's like, no, sugar lumps. Like, this has been going on for some time, you know. So
Oh, yeah, I hear you. That's not funny, but that little sugar lumps. I hear you. Oh man. Mm. Mr. Robert Stubblefield, go ahead and let them know where they can follow you at, because obviously you are very knowledgeable. I want to get into the whole activism thing. I want you to talk to us about the latest thing that you've done in that area. But go ahead and let everyone know where they can follow you at.
okay, so you can follow me on Instagram. My IG is thatguyrob26. And you can follow me on Twitter. My Twitter is at 95star. You can also add me on Facebook. My Facebook is Robert Stubblefield. So if you type in my name and if you see, a profile picture, it's actually a painting a friend of mine did of me. It's pretty much me wearing my hakama and a samurai and a katana. That's basically me. So I'm friendly, you follow me on Instagram or Twitter, I follow back, and if you add me on Facebook, I'll add you quickly. So you know, you can follow me on those pages.
That's what's up. Now you got a book. You got a couple books out. You want to run us through that?
Sure, absolutely. So the first book, this is like I like to call this one my firstborn. This is Written in Blood anthology, 2011 to 2018. I published that on February 28th of 2020. So just before the eve of the pandemic. And so basically, it's a collection of poems that I wrote 2011 to 2018. It basically is it's pretty much like poems ranging from love and dreams and experiences to social commentary with what was going on at the time. So that was the first book I wrote,
Mm-hmm.
and that was so this. And I have to say, it's my pride and joy because never in my life I thought that I would have a book published, let alone several at this point. So I'm very, very happy about that. So that's my first
Yes,
book.
that's a big
My
that's a big deal.
yeah, I know it is. It is. And the second book I wrote, I published it on Juneteenth. It's called No Rain in the Desert. It's kind of like a semi sequel to Written in Blood. Originally, I was going to call it Written in Blood Volume 2, The Apocryphal Aphrodisiac. It was going to pay homage to Common Song Nat Champa. And the cover I had for that, if I was going to go with that concept, was basically the Grim Reaper holding a jar, and there's a crowd of people yelling, give me that, aphrodisiac. But I decided to go full Rain in the Desert because of the theme. And so the cover for that book, No Rain in the Desert, you have like the Ankh, which is the symbol of the sun, and you have the Grim Reaper, but his robes are in the colors of the American flag, and he's fighting an angel with the head of a panther, of a black panther, and a flaming sword, and they look like they're about to go at it. So that's my second book, and I'm pleased to announce, and you're getting a sneak peek. You're hearing this first. I'm reading between the lines. I finished my third book of poetry called Skyfall Volume 1. I finished that. I finished that the first volume, the first half of it. I'm currently working with my graphic designer to work on the cover for Skyfall. It's going to be coming out real soon, so definitely keep an eye out for updates and everything.
Now,
And so,
now tonight, do we get to hear a little bit from that, or are you going to give us something from Written in Blood?
Absolutely. So I'm going to give you guys a sneak peek of some poems I've written from Skyfall Volume One. So basically, definitely, it's definitely going to be really good. The question I'm going to ask is, do you want to hear a love poem first, or do you want to hear social commentary first?
Well, I'm feeling renewed. I talked about the healing process. I feel that I'm healed. So let's hear a little bit of love tonight.
Okay. I got a love poem for you. This one is called Holiness. Okay,
Mm-hmm.
so holiness. It took the rest of my life to find you. It took a short time to love you. But now we're going to work to keep each other. What makes our union holy is more than love. It isn't always the bliss, the glamour, the glitz. Marriage is enduring the silent treatment, only to make amends later. It is the sleepless nights wondering, what did I do to deserve this love, to deserve this person? What caused the stars to align and meet this person? Let a love bloom despite the adversities that life threw and still throws at us. And when the love makes amends, I feel I'm most vulnerable. Yet I feel joy because someone sees me and all my faults and purity and still wants to be at my side. And when the time comes when we're both old and gray, we'll reminisce at our youth and smile, for we found the pure truth, that of the holiness of love.
Mm, a lot of good points in there. I'm not even going to say anything, but there's a lot of good points in there. Um,
And
go back to the first part again. Can you just read the first couple lines, and I'll tell you when to stop.
sure, I got you. So I'll go
Hmm.
back to the first part of holiness. Okay.
Hmm.
Holiness. It took the rest of my life to find you. It took a short time to love you.
All right, so
But now,
we can stop right there, right there. Just the first, like
okay.
I it took a long time to find you, right? But
Mm-hmm.
I guess when you know, anybody out there that can relate, you understand what I'm saying. Like you were here and you thought that that was what you wanted. You were there. You thought that that's what you were seeking for, and then you were there. But then all of a sudden, something happens, and you're like, "Where have you been this whole entire time? You mean to tell me I had to go through this? I had to go through that. I had to go over here. I had to go over there, just to find out that you have been here waiting." Like that's what I got out of it. I don't know, but I'm just saying.
Hey, I love that. The thing with poetry, the beautiful thing about poetry is that everyone can read the same poem
And
and
get
have
something.
like a different
Yeah.
interpretation of it.
Hmm. Hmm.
That's the beautiful thing about it. That's the beautiful thing about it. So,
And when you play games with somebody, like when you first start to meet people, let's keep it real. You start to play games, you don't want to show people that you're vulnerable, that you're really feeling them, and you do this whole back and forth thing. It is what it
hmm
is. But something happens along the way where there's that one person in your lifetime that there's no playing that game. It's like almost like a love at first sight type of thing.
hmm
I don't know if anybody have experienced that, but keep the faith, I guess, if you haven't, but maybe you will one day. I don't know. Have you ever experienced something like that? Like, where did this poem come from? Why did you decide to write something like this?
Well, what inspired me to write this poem was that I was listening to a friend of mine because he had found, he had found this girl that he had a crush on, and he was describing, he kept on just referring to this thing. He just kept saying this phrase, the holiness of love, over and over again. And
Hmm.
after we had a conversation, I was like, just playing that phrase over, and it was kind of like a song kind of took off in my head, the holiness of love, and so I decided, let me just write this out, and so that's where it came from.
Why do I feel like your friends come up, they reach out to you, they're like, yo, I got a problem. I need you to help me with something. Can you write something for me? This is what I got going on in my mind. And then you just get to working.
Well, it's kind of like, well, the thing with my friends and I is like some of them, especially these are friends that I've been with for a long time, right?
Hmm.
And so for them, it's kind of like I've typically been the one to be like a mediator and a problem solver.
Yeah.
Um, so for me, it's kind of like whenever they, so it's kind of like with me, I'm kind of like, hey, let me see if I can help you out with something. And so with some of my buddies, it was like, um, you know, since they knew I wrote poetry, they were like, hey, man, like, I want to say, I want to say I love you, but I can't say it like how I want it to. I don't know how to be, for lack of a better word, smooth with it. So, could you help out, or could you at least try to write down what I'm trying to convey? So
Yeah. Well, that's good that you got that. Do you ever get tired of it, though? Is a question I have.
well, not really, because the thing is that great artists, they take from everything. They borrow from everything that's going on around them, whether it's a conversation, whether it's a site, whether it's a piece of art itself. If I could use an example, one of the first reggae songs that really gained popularity was a song by Desmond Decker called "The Israelites." And when he was asked how did he come up with that song, is that he talked about like he was sitting down somewhere and he heard this couple argue, and I think the woman said something along the lines of, where she was leaving her husband. You're saying like I was always yours to receive, and so he starts enslaving for bread. So then he starts humming this tune when he goes, "Get up in the morning, slaving for bread." And then by the time he walked home, he already got the lyrics worked out. He just had to work out the rhythm of the song. And then next thing you know, he had like a popular hit. It's considered the first reggae song to really go mainstream, the Israelites. So that's what great artists do. We borrow from everything we see and hear. So
All right. Well, now we're gonna get into some real heavy stuff. Now, we started with the love. We got to give them the love first, right? After we give them the love, now we getting ready to go in for the attack. So, set us up for the next one.
Okay, so let's see. Which one do I want to hit you guys from Skyfall? So let me see. Oh yeah. All right. I'm trying to think of what would be a good one. Here's one. This is called America, a third world country with a Gucci belt. Make me want to holler. Okay.
That's a dope title. First of all, that's a real dope title. Say it again, because people need to hear it.
Okay, so the title is called America, a third world country with a Gucci belt. Make me want to holler. All right, you ready?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. This ain't living. No, baby, this ain't living. Imagine a place that due to years of hyped up propaganda of all the glamour, the glitz, the pizzazz. Yet here we are, can't afford to take care of our poor. We can't afford to feed the have-nots, even though we waste food on the daily. And our health, even if one has insurance, the fear of the cost out of pocket makes one not want to go to a doctor, even if they need to. But if we gave more money to the rich, man, shut the fuck up. I don't want to hear that ish. The rich, they fine, they dine, they drink wine. Yet when shit hits the fan, they expect us to have not to fund them. But what's the point of having the billion if you still need us to leech off of? Our highways and byways are old and decrepit like a crusty Ku Kluxa, a place that would rather yoke and ball and chain our youth and set them free unfettered, exceeding their potential being the leaders of tomorrow. So some are today, a place with bloodlines that swear that only happens in communist countries, while we are scared to unleash our fury. Lest we forget the land was built on the indigenous Holocaust and the enslavement of Africans, the built-in underclass, to pimp our cultures like a vulture, driving a Lambo to therapy and justify your actions. Yet the world knows your game, and the rose-colored glasses don't work anymore.
Hell no. I feel that. I understand that. Now, this isn't 100% right. Like, you still working on this, or is it done?
No, it's finished.
My suggestion is just put all the cuss words in there. This is worthy of all the curse words. I know you bleeped them out a little bit. You said ish, right?
Yeah, finish. Yeah.
You should say the real. You should just let it flow. The way that you just went in with it, it just made sense to just let it go. My suggestion, you don't have to listen to me, but I'm just saying,
No problem, no problem. I'll definitely take that under consideration, my man. You know.
real dope though. It was real. What can we get it one more time?
Sure, sure. I'll hit it one more time. Sure. America, a third world country with a Gucci belt. Make me wanna holler. This ain't living. Nah, baby, this ain't living. Imagine a place that through the years of hyped up propaganda of all the glamour, the glitz, the pizzazz, yet here we are. We can't afford to take care of our poor, can't afford to feed the have-nots, even though we waste food on the daily and our health. Even if one has insurance, the fear of the cost out of pocket makes one not to go, even if they need to. But if we gave more to the money to the rich, man, shut the fuck up. I don't want to hear that ish. The rich, they fine, they dine, they drink wine, yet when shit hit the fan, they expect us to have not to fund them. Like, what's the point of having all those billions that you still need us to leech off of? Our highways and byways are old and decrepit like a crusty Ku Kluxer. A place that would rather yoke and ball and chain our youth and set them free, unfettered, exceeding their potential, being the leaders of tomorrow, though some are of today. A place with breadlines. They swear only happens in communist countries, while we are scared to unleash our theory. Lest we forget the land was built on the indigenous Holocaust and the systemic enslavement of Africans. The built-in underclass, they pimp our culture like a vulture, driving a Lambo to therapy and justifying your actions, yet the world knows your game, and the rose-colored glasses don't work anymore.
Mm, they don't work anymore. People, we need to wake up. Mr. Robert Stubblefield. Let them know where they can go ahead and follow you at and get your books. This new book, Skyfall, is coming out soon. We don't have a date yet, but
Yeah,
you just got a preview. You
I
got
don't,
two.
yeah, I don't, yeah,
Good.
so I don't have a date yet for Skyfall. Just know it's coming soon. As you can follow me, like I said, you can follow me on Instagram at that guy Rob 26. You can follow me on Twitter at 95star. As for where you can get my books, you can get Written in Blood and No Rain in the Desert. You can get them both on Amazon currently. Skyfall, I'm actually going to be working on not just getting it published on Amazon, but also on Barnes and Noble Press.
Mm-hmm.
So working on getting that set up. But like I said, it's going to be coming real soon. So just keep an eye out, and then just keep an eye out. It will be coming soon. You'll love it. You'll love Skyfall.
Love it already. Love both of the poems. They were definitely on point. Everything that we got going on in our world today. Um,
Uh,
so I know I do burning questions. That's coming up soon.
okay,
But
great.
before we get into burning questions, I know you spoke a lot about your father. You've told us plenty of stories on here before, which I love all of the stories from the martial arts stuff that you've learned, from the banana story that we heard. Um, sounds like an amazing individual.
Mm-hmm.
Now, there's a movie called Panther. I don't know when it was released, like 90s or something like that. Did you get a chance to see that movie?
Yeah, I saw it. I saw it came out like the mid 90s, and I remember they had Kadeem Hardison. He
Yes.
played Judd.
Mm-hmm.
They had Mario Van Peebles.
Mm-hmm.
They had Marcus. They had Marcus Strong. And what's significant about that movie and his character, because he bore a striking resemblance to a young Huey Newton, which was scary to a lot of people. And you had Courtney Vance as Bobby Seale, and Bokeem Woodbine as a Panther. I liked the movie, although I will say they definitely did take some liberties with it.
Yeah.
Huh?
No, I said yeah, I agree with you because that's what happens with movies.
Yeah, but personally, I liked it. Personally, I liked it. Although my dad's kind of like, but then again, like I said, my dad was like, that's not really.
That's what I
He
wanted
said
to
that
know. Yeah, that's the reason why I brought it up because I wanted to know what his intake was on the movie.
So my dad's take on the movie was that it was trying to do the right thing,
Mm-hmm.
but it took a lot of liberties. And what he meant by that is that For instance, there was a scene like with Huey Newton and talking with Judge about serving with a double agent. The thing is that like in real life, Huey, while he knew about government infiltration, he didn't really know how deep it was until a few years after the Panthers had ended. So I don't think about like, the whole thing having Judge serve as a double agent, feeding them information. That was something that to him was very far fetched.
Gotcha.
The other thing that he had a problem with was that there was a scene within the movie where they're getting ready to plan on going to Sacramento.
Mm-hmm.
And they're pretty much telling Huey, nah, man, we need someone, we need you to be out here to be prepared for bail. But the problem is, though, is that in actuality, the reason why Huey didn't go to Sacramento with the rest of the Panthers to protest the Mulford Act, which would have stopped open carry, was because Huey was on probation. So basically, Huey couldn't. Not that Huey didn't want to go. Legally he couldn't. So that was like another thing. We decided like Huey, you're not going to go, and Huey was like, okay, no, Huey legally he couldn't go, and the other Panthers were well aware of his situation. The other thing, that my dad had a problem with that movie is that they kind of portrayed like the Panthers as very hyper masculine, if that makes sense. It's as if, but the thing that a lot of people fail to realize is that the Black Panther, even though yes, men started the Black Panther Party, it was mainly the women that were really holding it down. Like they touch on it, but they don't really go into a lot of detail in terms of a lot of things like the Elaine Browns, the Erica Huggins, the Kathleen Cleavers. How they did a lot of things especially while Newton, Seal, Cleve Eldridge, while Panther leaders were either in exile or dead, how basically it was the women that were really holding the party down. There are things that, like I said, like I get. I respect what they were trying to do with it.
Mm-hmm.
It's good, but there's, like I said, those are a couple of things that my dad had a problem with that movie. So.
Well, I had let my children watch the movie. It was a learning lesson where we all had to sit down and watch this together because we need to understand. But the lesson that I got out of it, or I tried to give to my children, is we ain't going to do this whole black and white thing because you're going to get good and evil, period, at the end, whether it's a black person, whether it's a white person, this whole race thing, we're going to clean this thing up real quick. And I believe that movie is a good indication to let you know that you're going to get it from both sides. You're going to get good people on this race and you're going to get good people on that race and vice versa. And it is what it is. So that's what I got from it, from, trying to, teach the younger generation. They need to see, because whenever you hear about Black Panthers, they don't get a good rap for the most part, at least from what I know. Whenever you hear about it, people, say that they were, what goes on. But when you watch that movie, from what they portrayed, they welcome everybody, and how they started it from the ground up is amazing. That part right there, that is absolutely amazing. So
Exactly.
yeah.
True. That is a good point. So the thing is with COINTELPRO, one of the things that I will say that my dad and I did agree in is that they did portray COINTELPRO pretty well, in a sense, especially having like that black CIA officer played by Roger Guinevere Smith. Like the thing is, it's kind of like what it reminds me of what Zora Neale Hurston once said. Not all skin folk ain't kin folk. Or my personal favorite, Chuck D, every brother ain't a brother. And so it's kind of like, and the thing is that like, and it reminds me a lot of what happened with Fred Hampton of the Chicago chapter. The FBI informant was his bodyguard, William O'Neill. And you can make the argument that yes, William O'Neill was young, 17 years old, and scared, and was being pressured to do this. But you got to remember, Hampton was very young himself. He was in his early 20s. He died. He was killed at 21. And yet not once did he ever think about selling out his people or betraying his community. You know, like I thought that, I know we're talking about the movie Panther here, but I thought the movie Judas and the Black Messiah, did a pretty decent job of portraying the complexities of that in many aspects.
Okay, I will definitely take a look into that. When it comes to, you know, movies and stuff, I'm like the worst at it. You gotta school me. You gotta tell me certain ones I look at and stuff like that. But I appreciate you for coming through. Um, I think we could squeeze in this burning question real quick, and then after that, I want you to go ahead and let everybody know where they can follow you at one more time. We have Mr. Robert Stubblefield in the building tonight. Great. What is it going to be? Three-time author now, right?
Yep,
All right.
3 times. Yep, I'm
All
looking
right.
forward to it, man. It's a
Well,
good thing.
we definitely have to have you come back. This was a real more like every time you come through, it's on point and it's we learn from you. But this was definitely a great show tonight, and I definitely appreciate you for coming through. If we didn't learn anything tonight, I don't know what to tell you. There's so many great things inside of this conversation that we had tonight. Now, speaking of going through some places, I want to ask you a question. Was there ever a point where you were insecure? A lot of people deal with it, but a lot of people will not admit it. Was there ever a point where you were insecure, and once you realized that you were insecure, how did you overcome those obstacles? How did you get past it?
Oh yeah, sure, absolutely. So there was a time I thought I was insecure. So basically, when I was growing up as a kid, I always grew up being compared to my older brother. My older brother, very intelligent. He was like academic awards, always made it on a roll, always like getting like being. In fact, he was recognized as a who's who of American high school students by the time he was like 15, and that was something that was usually reserved for rising seniors. My brother was a sophomore about to get that award. And growing up, I was always referred to as they wouldn't even some people wouldn't even call me by my name. They'll always say Ron's little brother, and I'm kind of like I have a name, and so it got to the point where I kind of just feel like people just didn't want to see who I was. They didn't want to see what I could do, because they would always think me. But of course, they would always judge me by what my brother could do. And so one day, what wound up happening is that unfortunately, I had a teacher who recognized that, that I had my own gifts and talents. They would always call me by the first thing that I thought that she did really well, she always called me by my name. She never got me confused with my brother, because especially like, my brother's name is Ronald, my name is Robert, so she would always call me Robert, or sometimes she had to prefer being called Robert or Rob. That's I'd always find. And the other two, she recognized my gifts and talents. She recognized that, I love poetry and I love history. She loved the fact that I love, playing sports. She loved the fact that, she honored and recognized the fact that I was basically my own person, that I was willing to stand up for what I felt was right. And so Mrs. Waiter, she was my fifth grade teacher. I actually had two teachers. There was Mrs. Waiter, she was my teacher for fifth grade, and Miss Kilgore, who was my music teacher for my last 2 years of elementary school. Because they recognized, Miss Kilgore on her end, she recognized the fact that, hey, I love music from the 50s, 60s, and 70s, especially the sound of Motown. And the fact he introduced me to opera, which I thought was really cool. And so, those two really helped me build up a sense of self-worth and self-esteem, that I have my gifts and talents, that I'm good at, that I can be my own person and still respect what my brother can do. So yeah, I had a period in my life where I felt insecure, but fortunately, it was people that recognized that to help build me up, so then I could then be comfortable in who I am and what I bring to the table. So.
That's a good point, and good thing that you had people to build you up. Because sometimes we don't have people to build us up. Sometimes we're stuck. Sometimes we're alone. So for those of you who don't have that same story, as far as someone building you up, man, I know it's easier said than done. You have to learn how to build your own self up, and that will help you overcome. We already talked about power. You relinquish your power, you give your power up when you feel insecure, when you feel stuck, when you feel that you can't make it, when you feel that you're not worthy. But once you start to take time and dig in with self and build yourself up, whatever you need to do. I don't care what it is, whether you need to go shopping and you need to buy this to make you feel good, whether you need to, put your hair a certain way, get that fresh haircut, whether you need to get those fresh pair of sneakers, whether you need to buy that cologne or that perfume. I know it sounds so minute in a situation, but whatever it is that you need to do to help build yourself up, that's a starting point. And then after that, you continue to keep building yourself up and building yourself up. And once you believe and once you see and once you know, everybody around you will. But until then, you know, it's not going to work unless you have somebody like you said that support system, that sponsor, that coach. People who have that in your life, you are blessed to have that because not everybody, especially with some of these areas that we come from, you don't have that. So you got to learn to do whatever you need to do to make yourself feel good, to make it work. And it's so true that once you start, you got to build upon it and build upon it and build upon it and build upon it to get where you are today. Honestly, I'm just a prime example of everything that I spoke about because I didn't have nobody saying, "Yeah, Laren, like, do it, make it work." Like, I love what you're doing. No, most of the time people are like, "Excuse me, excuse my language, but what the fuck are you doing?" You know what I'm saying? But I had to say, you know what? No, I'm going to do what I need to do for me. And then when I did that, then all of a sudden people start coming out of the woodwork like, yo, what's up? This is this and this is that. Yeah, because you weren't like hyping me up and saying like do it and make it work in the beginning. If anything, you were looking at me like, what's going on here? Is there a problem? So, but anyway, thank you so much for coming on. I appreciate you. This has been a great time. This little blood orange wine has worked wonders tonight. Worked well with the conversation. It made sense. Reading between the wines. If you can go ahead and let everybody know where they can follow you at. We have Written in Blood. We have Skyfall coming out soon. Mr. Robert Stubblefield, always a blessing to have you come on, and I can't wait to have you come back.
Thank you so much. And like I said, you can follow me on Instagram at thatguyrob26, and you can follow me on Twitter at 95star.
There you go. Well, thank you so much, and we will be in touch because I can't wait till a new book comes out and all of that great stuff.
And thank you so much. I appreciate it. I appreciate it.
All right, take care, sir. I appreciate you.
Anyway, thank you for having me on. Have a good night.
You too. Take care now. All right, y'all. There you have it. Mr. Robert Stubblefield in the building tonight, reading between the wines. This was a great show. I have to tell you though, this wine, when I say orangey, super, 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 super duper orangey. When they say blood orange, they ain't lying. Make sure I get this bottle right for the cameras. Blood orange. I'm all over the place. Trust and believe that I only had a little bit. I have a lot. But it's 12%, and this is from France. It's rosé wine with orange, blood red orange, produced in France. Now, if you would like to support the 4-in-1 podcast and Reading Between the Wines, please go ahead and click that link above all of my social media platforms. And I'm so thankful to be on Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, YouTube, D Live, Twitch, Daily Motion. Listen, I appreciate everything that everybody does for me out there. Click the link above, go inside of Volume 1.5 Deliberation Remix Journal, and you can purchase my new book for $7.99, and you can help support and keep everything that we got going on here rocking and rolling. I have to give a very special thanks to my special guest, Mr. Robert Stubblefield, and all of the people that come through on Reading Between the Lines and the 4-in-1 podcast. Without each and every one of you out there for supporting, it wouldn't be possible. And of course, I have to thank my executive producer, my Lord and Savior Jesus Christ, for making this work and allowing me to have the strength, the courage, the energy, the wisdom to continue to keep doing what I'm doing each and every night. And it's amazing. Lots of great things coming. Please stay tuned. Check out the YouTube page, YouTube channel, whatever you want to call it. Hey, listen, reading between the wines. This wine got me feeling a little right tonight, which is what it's supposed to do. And on that note, I'll see y'all when I see you. 10 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. 4-in-1 podcast. Check me out. See you next time. Good night.